Well, this is a friend of ours that has been a part of this church now for a long time coming. His first time he came was in 1995, and he's been coming on a regular basis ever since then. He is a dear friend, Metro World Child. Did I get that right? Metro, yeah, I got it right. I was always just Metro. There in New York City is where he started. He has the largest Sunday school in the world. Over 250,000 children every week are being ministered to the gospel through Metro. He just got back from a month in Asia ministering there, and he came through here. I mean, he stopped by literally. He flew into LA just a day or so ago, drove up here for us. He'll get on a plane late tonight, fly overnight back to New York City, be in the office tomorrow, and then late tomorrow night he'll get on a plane and head to Africa there to be there for a month and establishing others. He'll tell you more about that. But we so love him and so appreciate all that he's doing. You're going to be blessed and challenged by the ministry today of Bill Wilson.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again, because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping, and the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence. In restless dreams I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone, neath the halo of a street lamp. I turned my collar to the cold and damp, when my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light that split the night and touched the sound of silence. And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. People talking without speaking, people hearing without listening, people writing songs and voices never shared, and no one dared disturb the sound of silence. And the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they made. Inside flashed out his warning, and the words that it was forming. In the sign said the words of the prophets are written on the subway walls, in tenement halls, and whispered the sound of silence.
Well, give the Lord a praise. Come on. Oh, here it is. Guys, good morning, good morning, good morning. Well, This is number 2 for me. Thank you, sir. You're welcome. All right. Well, as Pastor said, I'm going to be doing the all-nighter to JFK tonight, and it's a lot going on. And as in your life, as in my life, trying to get through this last 2 years, you know, just when we thought we were okay, and then, you know, some other variant happened and some other thing, and then in New York you had to wear 2 masks, and I got 1 shot in this arm, then I got 1 shot in this arm, then I got another shot somewhere I can't even tell you, and I've had all these shots and stuff. But you know what? We made it. Amen? We're here. In Jesus' name. We made it. And I know for some of you it was tough living in New York and dealing with all of that stuff that it's just kind of part of living there. I've been there now for 42 years. So it's because of churches like this that we have been able to do what we've done, not just in New York City, but have been able to train people and develop folks to be able to do the exact same thing all around this nation and now all over the world. And so, as I told the first service, I tell you guys, not only am I your missionary, even though I am, but I want you to understand that I am your representative. And I think sometimes people misunderstand that. So I want you to know that when I go, we're starting 4 new countries in Africa by the invitation of the governments of that African nations. And it's one thing when you're invited to go to a Christian event or something of that nature, but it's another thing when non-Christian people say, look, we need what you bring, what the church brings, what Metro Will Child brings, but mostly what Jesus brings to the table to try to do something for the kids in our nation because they're not doing well. And so I want all of you to know that when I ask you whether you follow me on Facebook, I don't like the Facebook thing. I think it's stupid. But I have other people that do it, and they've kind of convinced me that it's one way that I can kind of communicate with people and let them know what's going on. But I don't get it. I don't know what a DM is. Okay, well, some of you older people don't know either, so don't give me a bad time. I don't know what any of that stupid stuff is, but I know this. Every once in a while, after we've got some kind of a post, that people understand that I am representing them all over the world. And as I move into this Africa thing for this next month, I'll be there pretty much for the whole month. The city council of Lagos, Nigeria, this is kind of their deal. They said, look, we've got kids that are living on rafts in Lagos Bay. Lagos is now the most populated nation on the continent of Africa. So it's this door, and I touched on it yesterday when Paul said in 1 Corinthians that there was a great and effective door. And I'm not going to talk to you in Greek on that, but it's a door that made an effect. Something happened. It did something that changed things, that changed people's lives. And so I would ask you, please, just to remember myself and the team that's going, our Africa team that'll be working with me in these 4 countries. And so thank you, Pastor. Thank you as always for allowing me to be here to give you guys kind of an update and let you know what you're a part of. whether it's coming to New York. Some of you already talked to me about wanting to go with me to the Philippines in March, because I threw it out there and said, hey, if any of you want to go with me to one of these parts of the world. And then somebody looked at me and goes, they said, were you serious? Yeah. You want to go? My friends here were, because I knew the minute I heard you guys talking, I thought, they're not from Fresno. And so they're from Moldova. So we got a chance to chat because it was right there from Uzhgorod was our base. They're just across the border in Ukraine. So thank you guys. And it's just nice to know there are people that we're all working together and part of it. And so thanks, guys. God bless you. I appreciate it. Remember, pray for us, because there's going to be a lot going on this next month. I'll be going to Ukraine one more time this year at the invitation of the Ukraine government. I work with the 82nd Airborne. Long story, I do a lot of work with military in different parts of the world, and so they got me connected with the Ukrainian military and to go and help one other part. I was in Kharkiv on this last trip. A lot going on there, and so I will try to keep you updated, posted, and it's because, and I know this may sound corny to some of you. It's not meant to be that, but when you've done this for 50 years and you know what it takes to do this all over the world for 50 years, and then you realize that missions is actually servers and senders. You know, like, I'm crazy. I've been shot twice. I've been thrown off of a building. I've walked away from 3 plane crashes. The only thing I haven't had happen is I have not been in a ship that went under, although I am going to be on a boat later this year, and nobody wants to go, and I understand that. So I've been through all this mess. I've been a witness in 23 homicides in New York over these last 40 years. So I get it. I don't live in Manhattan with the sissies. I live in Brooklyn. And if y'all want to come and hang out, spend time, you see the bus that I was driving, jump on, I'll put you on the bus, we'll make it happen. So it's gonna be good. So I'm serious. You want to go with me anywhere? Some of you need to go on that Philippines trip, because the sponsor, and I talked about the folks that have been sponsoring a kid through Metro World Child for several years. Some of you have been with me for many, many years on sponsoring. So we have a few of the kids left. We had a great response at the table at the first service. So I'll be out there afterwards. And if you feel like maybe you want to do something for a kid like the man that picked me up off the street, I touched on my personal story in the last service when my mother, who was an alcoholic, left me on the street corner. And you and I were talking about this yesterday, because you know me, so you'll get this. People wondered why, when I went to New York, I started doing Sunday school on Saturday. And you know, sometimes it's just easier not to try to explain something to somebody. You know, it's like trying to teach a pig how to sing, and you can't do it, and it just annoys the pig. So it just doesn't make sense. So I learned a long time ago, people that really get it, I'll sit and talk with them, and I'll walk you through things. But see, when my mother was a barmaid, because she left me on the corner at 12, and when I was 10, and she was the barmaid, she would have me go to work with her and clean the bathrooms at the bar on Saturday morning. So, You want to know why I do Sunday school on Saturday? Yep, now you know. Because I remember. I have a selective memory. I remember it all. And it's because the one man, the one Christian man that came over, put his hand on my shoulder after I'd sat on that corner for 3 days, got me something to eat, made some phone calls, put me in a church van, sponsored me to go to a Sunday school camp where I heard the story of Jesus for the first time, and something happened at that camp. I'd never been to church in my life. But the first time I heard the story of Jesus, something happened. That was a long time ago, guys. But now, and I did that man's funeral a year ago. We've had some interesting conversations over the years. But he did not know that day when he picked me up off that street corner what I would do with my life. He didn't know. He didn't get it. I told the first service, I'll tell you, that man who did not know me, and yet he saw something in me that my own mother did not see. He saw something in me. I was always very skinny. I was very sickly, and I used to stutter real bad. And I've noticed sometimes, because I've had 5 concussions, and I've been banged in the head like a lot. I've been working with Christians for 50 years, so consequently, that's just a whole other message. But after you've had 5 concussions, and I've kind of picked up, and you'll notice it a little bit, is I kind of end up kind of doing the stuttering thing again as I'm getting older. And that's okay. But I'm going to tell you something. That one man that picked me up, he put something into motion. He didn't know, I didn't know. And yet, because I wonder what would happen with these men that we need to do something. What about some of the women that felt like the Lord put something in your heart, put missions in your heart? Servers and senders. I'm crazy enough to go to these places. I'll serve, but I can't go without people to send me. That's why I told you, I think I represent Cornerstone. I think I represent you guys pretty well, I think. I feel like I have. I think I'll make you proud. I think I make him proud. I believe I do. And so, as we move in to this next year, and all the kids that we're going to be working with, understand that when you see the pictures on the back table, you will once again have a chance to sponsor one of the kids that we have committed our lives to. It's a $23 a month commitment. You can be as involved in the life of your sponsored child as you want to be. And go with me to the Philippines. Go with me to some of these places. But you know what? Even if you don't go with me somewhere else in the world, boy, I wonder what would happen if we could do some things right here in Fresno that God is trying to do with a generation of kids here. I wonder what would happen if a couple of people, couple of men, couple of women say, hey, I understand Saturday, and maybe you've got your own Saturday story, but maybe some of you can say, I'm willing to do whatever I can do to reach a generation and stand guard, which you'll hear about in a few minutes, of kids right here in this city. What about it? God's put missions on some of you, outreach on some of you. For some of you, it's time, folks. It's time. It's time. And we're going to see something great happen all over the world. But I think we're going to see something great happen right here in Fresno this next year. God's getting ready. Positioning you. I said it in the first service. I said it. He's going to position you folks. So I'll be out there after the service. The pictures will be out there. The bracelets that the ladies make in the garbage dump, to feed their kids. I'll answer any questions you've got. The book, I think we've only got a couple of the T-shirts. Follow your heart. Huh. But take your brain along for backup. So, it was a funny story at the back table back there earlier. So, anyways, thank you again, and Pastor, as always, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks. More than you know. You know, at 73 years old, and you've met as many people as I have, I worked in Washington with the U.S. president for a year, and almost killed a couple of senators on that one, and some of them needed it, in Jesus' name. So after you've been around the people that I've been around all my life, I'm just thrilled to be able to keep being here with you guys and let you know how much you mean to me. Thank you. Thank you so very, very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yep. I didn't see my clock. There's no clock. What happened to the clock? Is that like the early one? What? There's not a clock here. There's no clock. I got my own little cheap watch. All right. Put it right there. There we go. I can do that. So where was I? I was in Amsterdam. Yep, exactly. So I'll be saying this next month. So I'm speaking at this pastor's leadership conference thing. And so I'm walking from the hotel to the auditorium. And I was a little bit early because, you know, if you're on time, that means you're late. That's for all of you young people that just can't seem to ever be on time. That's old school stuff. Anyways, so I'm walking a little early, and I see this museum. Said it in the first service. I like history. I have this propensity to just, if you know, history repeats itself because we're too stupid to learn the first time. And so it's just, I don't know. But so I'm walking around this Dutch museum, downtown Amsterdam, and I see this statue of these two hands clasped like this. That was a statue. This was it. So I thought, oh, that's strange. So there's a stanchion next to the statue, and it's kind of got the little blurb of what you're looking at. So I'm reading, and I thought, I've read this story before. I read this story. Then I got to the name. Yep. It was a story of the man by the name of Dirk Willems. Now, Willems was a Christian in the 1600s in Holland that was one of these very vocal, committed Christians, very kind of in your face, not obnoxious, but just very there. You know, have you been around some Christians that they're just there? They don't necessarily wear their faith on their sleeve, but you can just tell. You can tell when people love God, serving Him. It's just there. And so now the government is rattled because Williams, because of his faith, was kind of stirring things up. So he heard that they would come get him. They were going to put his hands behind his back, set him on fire, burn him at the stake, as they did in those times. So Willems Says, okay, then I got to go. So he's running across this frozen lake on the outskirts of Amsterdam. It's middle of February. Willems kind of a smaller man. So he's running across this frozen lake. But the government guy that's come to get him, to take him in to be burned at the stake, is a big guy. All right, so Willems is running across this lake. He gets across the lake, frozen lake. The government guy gets about halfway across, falls through the ice, cannot swim. Screaming, hollering for help. Nobody's around except our boy, Willems. Willems hears the guy screaming. This is the guy that was taking him to his death. Willems hears the screaming, runs back across the lake, reaches down the statue, pulls the guy out, saves his life. The guy still takes him in to be killed. So it's 2 weeks later. So they've got him downtown Amsterdam, hands behind his back. They're getting ready to light him up. But the story of how Willems had saved this guy's life had circulated through Amsterdam. And just before they lit him on fire, somebody from the crowd said, hey, Willems, why did you do it? Why'd you save that guy? And then somebody else chimes in, you knew he was taking you to your death. Why'd you do it? And just as they were lighting him on fire, you know what he said? He said it was a reflex. Let me say it again. It was a reflex. So many of the messages that I bring, whether it's TV or in conferences or whatever, is I guess because people ask me a lot of questions, and I find at this point in my life, I'm spending more time answering what I would think are valid questions, but for whatever reason, some people just, they say, okay, why is that? What do we need to do? What do we need to do in our own city? And so, Willems said, don't miss this, Willems said it was a reflex. Now, you know when you go to the doctor, to your little physical exam, and they take that little, what do they call that thing? It's a little hammer, mallet, something they smack you with on the leg. And so when they smack you here, if you've got any life in you at all, hence the purpose of being smacked with the hammer, they smack you here, and if you've got anything going, your leg just, okay? The reflex, okay. Willems said, to save this man's life at the expense of his own. So it's just a reflex. So here was the question, and I don't think we can answer this collectively. I think you're going to have to answer this one individually, if you're up for it. Here's the question. The crowd said it. I throw it to you. Why, Willems, why did you do this? Willems said it was a reflex, but then why do some Christians have that reflex, but other Christians do not? Things that make you go, exactly. Why then do some Christians get it? And they just, it's like the man who picked me up off the street. I say it often, and it throws some people off theologically when I say the need is the call. But God puts all kinds of things on a regular basis in front of us, and yet somehow we overlook those things that God puts in front of us the need really is the call. If you see a need and you can fill that today, that, my friends, is the call of God for you today. What could happen in this city if we even had 5, 6 people? What would happen if somebody in this house, right here, right now, said, there's a lot of little kids in this town. Nobody brings to church. A lot of their parents aren't Christians. Probably most of them aren't. How are these kids? How does that happen? You tell me. Is it a reflex? Some get it. Some see the need. They realize somebody has got to go outside the 4 walls and see, like the man saw me. Willems said it was a reflex. So I was at this conference. I was in Tulsa. I try not to go to Tulsa too often. It's just too depressing. But I was speaking at a bunch of theologians, and you know, they're talking about how did Paul go from being the murderer of Christians to becoming the missionary? How does someone go through a metamorphosis, for lack of a better, where sometimes I just use big words. I don't really know what they mean, but I have to justify the PhD because that was a lot of time and money that didn't make any sense. So sometimes I just say stuff and I don't even know what I'm talking about. But I have to justify all my degrees. It's very frustrating. And so when all of the theologians went through all the implications in their mind of how could somebody go from this to this, and of course, you know, the whole Damascus Road thing. I've walked on the Damascus Road myself. It's about 2 a.m. So I get it. I understand the geography. I get it. He's blind. He's laying in the road. I get it. But what's the backstory? Willems said it was just a reflex. So, how do Willems, guys like that, guys like Paul, how do their lives evolve into these people that do some things that become a reflex? Paul says it. And I'll just throw this at you for a couple of minutes and then I'll get out of your way. But Paul says it in 2 Corinthians chapter 5. 2 Corinthians chapter 5. And I don't know if you guys put the verses up on the screen or not. You know, you don't need to. But if you did, you could put it up there because it's kind of interesting because of, what are you doing? Did you do something? Did I mess up? Okay. No. Oh, no, we don't know. Okay. 2 Corinthians chapter number 5, verse 14. Paul says it. You've read it. He said, and the love of Christ constrains us. Interesting that he made it plural. He did not say that the love of Christ constrained him. It said it constrains us. It does something. The love of Christ all by itself, no secret sauce, all by itself. When you get it, it does something. It makes something happen. Now, I'm not going to throw a lot of Greek at you here, but that word constrains in the King James. Now, if they would have put up one of the translations that they would maybe normally use, maybe NSV, NRB, or some of the other bogus translations that a lot of folks use. I prefer the King James. That's the one Jesus read, so that's the one that I kind of go that route. But when you read it in the Old English in the King James, it's that word constrains in the Greek is the Greek word syneko. S-U-N-E-C-H-O. Syneko. It's only used twice in a context like this in the whole New Testament, and I'm going to show you why. This word syneko is one of those weird old Greek words that when it was used, it had three primary definitions. Now, I don't want to bore you with a bunch of that kind of stuff, but I need you to just kind of stay with me for just a second and see if this connects with you. Paul said that the love of Christ, syneko, the love of Christ constrains us, syneko. It does something. Now, when you read, like the Old English, about 6, 7 of the different old chambers, dictionaries, where the Old English was kind of transliterated and put out there. When you look at any of the original English words, or even in Spanish, Ukrainian, I kind of had to learn a little Ukrainian when I was over there. But usually when you look in a dictionary of any language and you look at it, you'll find a primary definition to the word, then a secondary definition, and a third, or whichever, how many ways that they can use depending on the text and the context of the word being used. So, having said that, Paul is saying that the love of Christ constrains us. It does something. It's a verb. Now, why is this important for all of us? If in this post-COVID time, if we're going to move into next year and do some things we've never done, get some people in the church that are involved and jump in and see what can happen in this city. Some folks going to happen next year. I don't know about you, but I can sense it. We talked about it yesterday, and I can't say this everywhere I go because it'd be disingenuous. But I've been around long enough, and I've been around these last 2 years and seen a lot like some of you have. And yet Paul says that the love of Christ did something. So in the last couple minutes I've got, I'm going to give you the 3 definitions of that Greek word constrains or syneko. Because when that word was used in the New Testament, that's why it was very seldom used. It meant 3 things at the same time. Very unusual in any word, in any language. It meant 3 things all at once. That's why Paul uses that word in that context. The love of Christ did something. So let me give you those 3 definitions quickly, and then I'll be done. Definition number 1 for this interesting Greek word. It forces something to happen. Actually, a better transliteration, even from the Old English, is it forces motion. It forces something to happen. So what is Paul saying? He said, when you understand what Jesus really did on the cross, not what you read he did, not what you think he did, not what somebody told you he did, but when you, that's why I said we can't talk about this collectively. This is an individual question and answer time. Paul said the love of Christ forces something to happen in your life. Okay, let's let it waft. Let's just let it waft. When you really get this, folks, now, I can talk to you. I recently got my medical doctor's degree. I had the PhD, and then I, delivered that baby in a parking lot, and then I thought, well, maybe I need to learn to do it again, like real. So then I got my medical degree at the University of Paris. So is there any pregnant women here? Is that? Oh, here's one. Okay. I don't think you really want me to do that? I mean, if we have to, we can do it. Okay, yeah, we can do it. If you're good with it, I'm good. All right. So, but I am a real doctor. Okay, just so you know. And the love of Christ, when you understand the medical implications of what the crucifixion really is. I don't have a lot of time to spend on that. I'd like to, just so all of us have a really, really good understanding of what that is, that anatomically happens, mentally, emotionally, structurally happens in the human body. And yet, Paul said, the love of Christ, do you understand what he really did for you? See, this is when it gets personal. Do you really get it, or is it just a mental assent? Because I don't know. Some of you I know better than some of you other ones. But when you really understand what he did, why he did it, what brought him to that place, first definition is it forces motion. It forces something to happen. You get it? Maybe not. All right, here we go. All right, get a close-up, chop, chop. Now, I carry this thing all over the world. It's really frustrating in the airport to explain what this is. But, you know, I've had it confiscated. I thought somebody confiscated it this morning, but we found it. It was lost, and then it was found. All right, so here's your power source. Here's the plug. It's connected to a California fan. It's a little woke, but it's there, okay? So, all right. I'm almost done, just hang in there. Here's your power source. Here's the plug. Now, I was raised Pentecostal. I only admit that when it's convenient. But it was back in the old school time where we used to have these testimony services. And you've never lived unless you've been in a Pentecostal testimony service. Now, I lived at the church because when I gave my life at Jesus at the camp, I had nowhere to live, so they let me live in a broom closet at the church where the guy who picked me up went to. So I had to be in every service. That's why I'm like this. So all these years, I was on the front row, man, at everything. And at the testimony service, there was one old lady. Her name was Sister Shoop. Sister Shoop. And her testimony every Wednesday was, I've been walking close to the Lord all my life. And I was 12 years old. And I thought, what does that mean? So what she was saying was, I'm walking close to the Lord all my life. Now, I kind of didn't get it then, but what she was saying was what? This. See, now that's pretty close, isn't it? Here's the power source. Here's the plug. Here's Sister Shoopy, okay? So here's the plug. Here's the source. Now that sounds good on a Wednesday night testimony service, but if you're this close to the source, is anything going to happen? Nope, not even a little bit. All right, so let's go one step further. How about if we get this close? That's pretty close, right? Anything going to happen? Nope. But, sports fans, now, when this connects to this, all the little molecules in our woke California plug, all the molecules, whether they want to move or not, you're slow, but you're worth waiting for. Whether you want to move or not, whether you want to work for the Lord on weekend or not, whether you want to reach people for Christ or not, it doesn't stinking matter. It doesn't matter, Bubba. Because when this connects to the source, you don't have a choice. This forces movement. This forces something to happen. This makes something happen. The love of Christ all by itself forces you. It pushes you. It moves you. It presses you out of the seat into the street to see the needs. Come on, man. Do you get this? Do you understand what Paul, even the theologians, they didn't get it. Of course they don't get it. Because none of this is rocket science. See, when you connect to the source, I'm glad that man that picked me up off the street, he didn't have to go to a seminar. Quiet now, isn't it? Yeah, he didn't go to a seminar. Nothing wrong with going, but he didn't. He didn't read a book on evangelism for children. Well, I'm not qualified. Shame on you. The only thing you have to have going on to be qualified is to be crucified. Oh, let me just, come on, Jesus. Somebody better get this. Somebody better get this. Because when this connects to the source, you don't have a choice. It's not about figuring it out. It's not going to a seminar. It's not about dealing with the board of demons. It's not dealing with none of that. None of that. You get it now? You get it now, don't you? Kind of. Yeah. 3 definitions. That's why that word syneko is only used twice in a context like this in the whole New Testament. Because this tells the whole story of who Jesus is, was, and is for you in your life. And there's still a little boy and a little girl right outside waiting on a Saturday to have somebody bring them the gospel to them. See, that's why when you see these pictures, see, this is real personal to me, folks. This is real personal because I was this kid. I was this kid. I was the kid nobody wanted. I was the kid that nobody wanted except one Christian man whose own kid was dying, and he stopped, walked across the street, put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, "Are you okay?" And I stuttered so bad, and I tried to tell him my mother was gone, and I'm just hungry. He got me something to eat, made some phone calls, sponsored me to go to that camp. I wonder who's in the house this morning. I wonder if sometimes we think we know everything. Maybe we don't know as much as we thought we did. See, when Sister Shoup, I knew what she was saying now. I get it. I mean, but her theology was a little cattywampus. That's an old word. You know, people don't talk like that anymore. I'm 73, so let me talk the way I want. It was cattywampus. Her theology was cattywampus. I told you, I don't know what I'm talking about. I got a PhD. I don't know these words. And the love of Christ does what? It forces something to happen. I've been a little castigated. That's another good word. That's castigated. Make sure you get that right. I have been, yes. Anyways, and people say, "You're 73. Why in the world are you going to Ukraine again?" Yeah, you betcha. You bet. Yeah. Why are you going to Burundi, where we got kids 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old that are committing suicide because they don't have food? You know why I'm going? See, I'm a grateful man, folks. I should have been dead a long time ago. Nobody walks away from 3 plane crashes. No, not all the places I've been, all the 5 concussions, thrown off the building, shot twice. Come on, come on. I say, see, God, I'm with preachers that, I don't know, I don't care. All I want's my rock and share. Shut up. I'll slap you myself. Come on. And I will say this. I said it yesterday. I don't say it much, but most of you guys kind of know me. I've been here long enough. When I say this, I think you'll get it. Just so you know, I will die doing this. It's not even a question. Not for me. Why? Because I'm a grateful man. I'm a grateful man. I know what he did for me. I know what he did for me. Anybody could have picked me up off the street those 3 days. A drug dealer, pedophile. Anybody could have picked me up. But the only one that stopped was the Christian man. And he had every reason not to, just like Willems. His own kid was dying. He was going to visit in a hospital. But he still stopped for me. For me. So what about you? The love of Christ does something. It forces motion. It forces you to move. Get it now, don't you? I hope. But definition number 2, he keeps you away from something. And some of you are taking notes, and that's a good idea, because you may want to share this with some other folks. It moves you towards something, but number 2, it keeps you away from something. And I struggled with this word. As much as I read it and did it a translation several ways, it didn't make sense. How can something move you towards something and keep you away from something at the same time? And I believe the Holy Ghost helped me, because when I finally got it, it's like, okay, it makes perfect sense. The love of Christ, when it's real, when you get it, when it connects with you, when it connects, it moves you towards something, it pushes you out, it moves. But it also keeps you away from those things that the devil consistently wants to throw at you, your kids, your family, your relationships, and all these things. It tries to, you know how this goes, guys. When you understand what he did, it moves you toward something. It gets you out. It moves. It pushes you. But then it keeps you away from those things that the enemy is going to do his best. He's tried to do it to a lot of us these last 2 years. We talked about it a little on the last service. So it moves you towards something. It keeps you away from something. But number 3, it keeps you in something. You write that one down. That's why this word is only used twice on this context. Why? It moves you towards something. It keeps you away from something, and it keeps you in something. In what exactly? What does the love of Christ, what does it keep you in? I'll tell you exactly. See, his love will keep you in his love. His love will keep you in his grace. His love will keep you in his mercy. Oh, wait a minute. Let me throw another. His love will keep you in church. Come on. Come on. That's why I was waiting for this, because I wanted to hammer all of you watching online. I love you. Put your pants on next week, because y'all been watching church in your underwear long enough. It's time to come in the house, to worship, to fellowship, to serve, to be a part. It's time, folks. It's just time. I've known a lot of people, well, one Sunday they watch one church service, and next Sunday they watch another. Hey, let me tell you something. If you watch Stephen Furtick, you know what? If you get sick, Furtick ain't going to come out to Fresno to visit you. Joel Osteen, with his corny jokes, isn't going to come out and visit you. So if you're watching that stuff, and you're just, this is your house. This is your place. This is, my God. His love moves you towards something. It keeps you away from something, and it keeps you in something. Do you understand why Paul used this word syneko? It took me a long time to get this thing right in the Greek, but once I got it, it makes perfect sense. So what does this mean as we move into next year? I think you know now what it means. I think you know that once we start moving and we realize, are you really a grateful person? And maybe just because that I'm older and I've just seen so much and I've been through so much and I get it. Maybe it's that, or maybe not. Maybe it's just by the fact that, see, and you've probably heard me say this over the years, but I'll say it again. I go back to the corner where my mother left me, where I sat those 3 days. I sit there every Christmas Eve all by myself all night. Every Christmas Eve. You say, why do you do that? I'll tell you exactly why. Because I never want to forget where I came from. I never want to forget where I came from. And I sit on that corner every Christmas Eve. I pray for people. I just sit there and pray, kind of. Yeah. Why? Because I hope at this stage of my life, I'm smart enough to understand that there was one moment on a corner that my whole life, what's the word I gave it? I'm like, how can I even explain it? There was a moment. I talk about defining moments. There was that one moment right there. And the 250,000 kids in Metro Sunday School. You get it? What's happening? What's happening now? What we're going to be doing in Africa starting next week? It all started with one little boy and one ordinary Christian who was never called. He just saw the little boy that nobody wanted. And when I show you this video, and we'll wrap it up, I shot this live on the last run. And you will see the Ukrainian soldiers carrying a boy out of a house that was shelled by the Russians. And the Ukrainian soldier was bringing him out, and he's got him on the ground, and the medics are trying to save the little boy's life. But I didn't get a chance to talk much about it in the first service, but I need to say it here because I asked some of the guys that I was serving with in the Ukrainian army. I said, do you guys get trained to do this? They said, no. But he said, most of our guys, when they're around a little boy or girl who's shot or killed, they don't have to be trained. They don't have to be trained. Some people just don't have to be trained, do they? It's just there, the love of Christ. When it's in you, it's in you. You don't have to be trained. And you'll see in this video, the one soldier, he's standing there over the little boy. The medics are trying to save the kid's life. And you'll see he's holding his rifle. He's standing guard. He's just standing guard. And you'll you'll hear me say, that little boy died. And when they put the little boy in the truck to take him away, I watched that the soldier just walked over as they picked him up, and they put him in the truck, and the soldier just stood guard. He just stayed there until they took the little boy away. Why is that? Why is that? That some people call it a Ukrainian soldier thing, call it a Dirk Willems thing, call it a man who picked me up off the street thing, call it whatever you want to call it. But when you understand what Jesus did for you, when it connects with you, when you get it, and that Ukrainian stood there with his rifle. Somebody has to stand guard, my friends. Somebody has to stand guard for a generation. Why do you think I'm doing the all-nighter tonight and then the next night another all-nighter? Why? Why? You know now? I understand that my life was in the balance as a 12-year-old boy. It could have gone any way, but the one ordinary Christian stopped. He stood guard for me when nobody cared. I want you to roll the video. Play it, please. Bring the lights down. And watch what happens when somebody stands guard. Please. She was trying to explain that she just put the boy in the back room and a shell had hit the front of the house and the back of the house, and the whole thing fell in on the little one. And the rescue crews came in, they pulled him out of the rubble, laid him on the ground, and the medics are trying to resuscitate him. And there's a soldier standing there, and you can see him. You can see in the shadow. And he's holding his rifle, and he's standing over the boy while the medics are trying to save him. And there's a word in Ukrainian, zasnik. It means defender. There's something about some of these guys when there's a little boy, little girl that's been shot or killed. They stand there, the medics are working on the kid. They're guarding. It's that zasnik. This little guy didn't make it, but still, because they were putting him in the ambulance, and he's done. But the soldier still stayed, and he stayed guard. Stand guard. Oh, listen to that boy. I've spent my whole life to try to be a guardian. I've been trying to stand guard to kids all over the world, trying to do the best that I can. After all these years, to stand guard. I'm trying to stand guard for those. Maybe some make it, some don't. But somebody has to stand guard. Thank you for letting me. Just follow me. Stand guard. Stand watch. Somebody has to. And I'll keep on doing it for as long as I can. And the love of Christ constrains us.
Be seated. When you hear the real life story and you recognize the reality of what Bill is talking about, it does challenge you. what does the love of Christ do in our lives? What does it force us to do that we wouldn't naturally do? What does it keep us from doing that we naturally would just want to do? And what is it that keeps us, that we keep doing it, that we stay in it, that we don't give up and we don't quit? The love of Christ. We've been partnering with Metro, Bill Wilson, for years now. And you have been so faithful in doing that. And that's why every year I love for him to come and to share. And I told the people yesterday, I believe in proximity. When you get around passion, when you get around this type of love, it changes you. Because real vision is not something that's taught, it's something that is caught. I think many of you were infected today. Just by what you saw, what you've experienced, the love of Christ, it will compel you to do something. I ask you to do something by giving today. Some of you will get involved. Some of you will go with him to some of the places that he's talked about, whether New York or Philippines, but all of us can be engaged in helping to support financially the work. I don't need to explain it to you. You've seen it. Let me show you how you can give today. They've got it on the screen where the different ways. Just go to our menu there, and you'll see in the drop-down menu of ministries to give, you'll see Metro Bill Wilson right there, where you can give to that. If you want to give in person, there's offering envelopes in the seat back in front of you. Just be sure on that you write the word on the envelope, Metro or Bill Wilson. Metro probably the easiest. And that way we'll be sure that it gets to that. And that tab will be up there on our giving screen. And if you'd like to give at any time, we'll be sure that it gets there. But I want to encourage you. Let the love of Christ compel you today. Let it constrain you. It'll cause you to do something that, again, is beyond what you normally would. And in doing that, you will do something and cause something to happen that you can begin to imagine how God will use you. I'm giving you just a moment. Let me pray over this offering. Father, thank you. Thank you again for the ministry of Metro, of Bill, and what he has shared with us today. Now, Lord, help us to be a part. Help us to give today, Lord God. I pray that the love of Christ constrains us, compels us, that we follow our heart and follow your leading. Multiply this today, Lord God, that children around the world will be touched. That God, as we sow seeds in the lives of children in other parts of our nation and of our world, God, that in that I believe that you'll bring a harvest even here. So I thank you for the giver today. Bless those that are compelled by the love of Christ in their giving. In Jesus' name.